You're in a loud room. Music, laughter, conversations crashing into each other like waves. Your brain is swimming in noise. And then you hear it. Your name. Clear, sharp, undeniable. You look up immediately. Heart jumps, eyes scanning the room. But no one is looking at you. No one is calling you. So why did it feel so real? This happens everywhere. At parties, in grocery stores, on crowded sidewalks. You're not even paying attention, and suddenly, your identity snaps you awake. What's unsettling isn't just that you heard your name, it's how confident your brain was. No hesitation, no doubt, just instant belief. For a moment, your entire nervous system says, someone is talking about me. Your name isn't just a word to your brain, it's a signal flare. And what's more chilling, your brain is always listening for it. Even when you think you're not. Scientists call this ability the cocktail party effect. It's how your brain can track one meaningful sound out of hundreds of overlapping voices. But here's the disturbing part. Your brain does this without your permission. You may believe you're ignoring the noise, but your subconscious never does. It's scanning constantly, filtering thousands of meaningless sounds while waiting for just one that matters, your name. It's proof that attention isn't something you fully control. It's something that hunts. And this reflex is ancient. Evolution wired it into you long before society existed. Hearing your name once meant survival. You were being chosen, warned, hunted, or protected. So today, even in a harmless crowd, your body still reacts as if something important just happened. Heart rate shifts, breathing changes, adrenaline whispers awake. Your brain doesn't wait for evidence. It reacts first and asks questions later. Now here's where it gets truly unsettling. Sometimes no one said your name at all. You heard it anyway. This is called auditory pareidolia, your brain forcing meaning out of random sound.
The mind hates uncertainty, so it fills in the blanks with the most emotionally charged word it knows, your identity, your name. That's why a whisper in the static sounds like your name, why distant laughter seems personal, why a stranger's conversation suddenly feels like it's about you. It's not because reality changed. It's because your brain expects you to be important. There is a quieter truth beneath all of this. Your name is the center of your internal universe. Every memory, every fear, every hope, everything you experience is filtered through the story of you. So when your brain hears something even remotely close to your name, it doesn't just react to sound, it reacts to meaning. This is why people feel watched in crowds, why social anxiety feels so intensely personal, why embarrassment echoes longer than it should. Your brain quietly assumes that attention is always nearby, even when it's not. But this entire phenomenon raises a deeper question. If hearing your name is a signal flare for your identity, constantly being scanned for by your subconscious, what happens when your brain stops hearing it? What happens when that signal starts to fade and your own identity begins to blur in the noise? It leaves you to wonder why some people hear their name in crowds constantly, a perpetual center of their own perceived universe, while others almost never do. What does it say about you that your brain is always listening for your name? Or perhaps more importantly, what does it say if it isn't? Some people hear their name constantly, in a crowded room, in a whisper down the hall, in the static between thoughts. Others barely ever do. And this difference, it isn't random. If you grew up needing to stay alert, if you had to read emotional rooms just to survive, if you learned that attention could mean danger, rejection, or judgment, your brain learned to monitor the world more closely, not for sound, for threat. And your name became the fastest shortcut to that threat. People with social anxiety hear it more. People who've been criticized heavily hear it more. People who learned their worth was fragile hear it more. Because when your identity feels exposed, your brain turns your name into a tripwire, always listening, always scanning, always preparing you to react. There's something so intimate about a name. It's the first label you ever get, the first sound that teaches you who you are. But for many of us, that name was spoken most often in moments of discipline or correction or disappointment.
That quiet, firm tone. Say your name. The public shame. Don't embarrass the family name. The subtle judgment. You're better than this. So later in life, hearing your name still carries a certain weight. Not warmth, weight. It's why some people flinch when they hear it.
Why others prefer nicknames, a softer, safer version of themselves. It's why hearing your full name can still trigger a physical response. Your nervous system remembers what your ears learned long ago. But there's another reason your brain latches onto your name. It quietly believes that everything is connected to you. It's called the spotlight effect, that feeling that everyone is watching, noticing, thinking about you. Most of the time, they aren't. But your brain doesn't measure reality by logic. It measures it by emotional significance. And nothing is more emotionally significant to your brain than its own story. Your name anchors that story. So when the soundscape gets crowded and ambiguous, your brain defaults to the star of its own narrative, you. For most people, hearing their name in a crowd is harmless. A brief moment of confusion, then you move on. But for some, it becomes distressing. It turns into hypervigilance, paranoia, a deep emotional exhaustion. When stress stays high for too long, the brain becomes overly sensitive to signals of importance, and your name is the loudest signal it knows. This doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It simply means your nervous system has been carrying more than it should, and it's tired. But here's the strange part. Even when your name isn't called, your brain still listens for it.
Silence becomes suspicious. Your mind starts to wonder, am I being ignored? Did I do something wrong? Did I disappear? This is why people check their phones obsessively, why unread messages can feel like a personal slight, why being unseen can sometimes feel worse than being criticized, because your name isn't just sound, it's proof of existence. So the next time you hear your name in a crowd, real or imagined, just pause. Don't rush to scan the room. Ask yourself instead, what part of me was listening so closely? The part that wants to matter? The part that wants to be safe? The part that still carries old fear? Or the part that simply wants to be seen? That moment isn't about sound. It's about identity calling back to itself. Your name is the first word that ever taught you who you were. It followed you through childhood, through mistakes, through heartbreak, through the entire process of becoming. So of course your brain protects it. Of course it listens for it. And maybe every time you hear that name, it's just your mind quietly reminding you of something simple. You're still here. You still exist. You still matter, even in the noise.
So if you heard your name in a crowd today, relax, you're not psychic, your brain's just a little dramatic. But seriously, your mind is always listening because you matter. Your story matters. Your presence matters. Even when no one's calling your name, your brain still checks in like, hey, are we okay? So next time the world gets loud, remember that. You don't need constant attention to be important, and you don't need noise to prove you exist. And if you're still hearing your name, congratulations, you're human. Slightly over-caffeinated maybe, but human. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit subscribe. Your brain loves patterns and will give it plenty more. Thanks for watching.